Good afternoon, and welcome to another OBX Wave Report. This is a Friday for Future edition of the OBX Wave Report, and we're going to focus in on the messaging by climate activists, in particular Greta Thunberg and an activist organization called the Global Witness, and we are going to talk about the links between climate crisis, the war in Ukraine, and the need to mass deploy clean energy. And on this climate strike week, 236 climate activists are asking global leaders to step up their action on climate change to confront the climate crisis. And they are also speaking out against the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Greta Thunberg today saying, today, 1 year has passed since Russia invaded Ukraine, and we stand in solidarity with Ukrainians. Slava Ukraini. All right, so let's get into this. I've talked about this a lot, but I think it's a focus that we need to keep hammering home. And it's one that the Ukrainians themselves are very much aware of. And I wanted to highlight this headline in Global Witness and a quote by a Ukrainian. So the quote is, "The war in Ukraine, the climate crisis, and the energy crisis have common roots." And I just want to highlight a statement by Svetlana Romanko, a Ukrainian climate justice activist and an organizer with the Stand Ukraine campaign. And I'm going to read the first line of this article, which I hope you guys read in whole. The quote is, "Fossil fuels are funding the ongoing Russian invasion of my country, Ukraine. Without revenues for the export of oil and gas, much of which is bought by countries in Western Europe, Putin's war machine would not be able to function and would probably be unable to continue this horrific war." And the Stand with Ukraine movement is broad. And as we stand with Ukraine, we urge both Europe and the West to continue to increase investments in clean energy, wind, water, and solar, as was highlighted by the 2022 resolution by Europe to send an extra 210 billion euros to help phase out Russian fossil fuels. So EU planned a massive increase in clean energy to end the reliance on Russian fossil fuels. Um, these policies need to be enacted and sped up to reduce reliance on harmful fuels, both that fuel the invasion of Ukraine and that fuel the climate crisis. And just to also show the links between autocracy and the global war against democracy, right now, China, which is siding with Russia and providing increased levels of aid to Russia, is also trying to tamp down the West's support of Ukraine, even as it looks toward Taiwan for its own potential invasion of a democracy there. So right now, China is fueling a harmful petrostate with a supply of aids and possibly weapons, even as it speaks out against the West's own action to defend free democracies against brutal invasions and genocide by the Russian petrostate. So the same actors around the world right now, particularly in Putin's Russia, that are helping to fuel the climate crisis by doubling down on reliance on harmful fossil fuels and seeking to use harmful fossil fuels as a weapon against the West, are also, you know, trying to topple democracies around the world and partnering with China in order to do this. China itself is not helping in this respect by propping up Russia, and it calls into question China's own stated ambitions to rapidly deploy clean energy. And in my opinion, shows that China is not fully dedicated to the shift to clean energy, as it supports Russia, which has been a major force for climate change denial and climate inaction, as well as attempts to foster dependence on fossil fuels around the world. The authoritarian impulse and the fossil fuel impulse in this case go hand in glove, particularly with the ongoing war in Ukraine. And what we can do here in the West to help counter both dictatorship and climate crisis is to rapidly deploy clean energy, to make the West a clean energy leader, to leap out ahead of China as it attempts to support global autocracies, and to use clean energy as a democratizing influence to help Europe throw off the harmful influence of both China and Russia. And for our action today, for Friday for Future Action, we are going to go ahead and send a small donation to the Global Witness campaign, Global Witness, who has a goal to provide a more sustainable, just, and equal planet. We want forests and biodiversity to thrive, fossil fuels to stay in the ground, and corporations to prioritize the interests of we the people and the planet itself. So a big shout out to Greta Thunberg, all the climate activists, and to Global Witness for getting out on point and highlighting this key message in that the war in Ukraine and the climate crisis and the energy crisis are all linked, and that the people of the world, we the people of the world, those who support democracy, can aid democracy itself by fostering the rapid deployment of clean energy and the defeat of autocratic campaigns against democracies around the world, as we see in Ukraine and as we may see at some point, hopefully not, but as we may see at some point in Taiwan. So thank you for joining me for this special edition of the OBX Wave Report. I encourage you to support the climate activists, to stand with Ukraine, and to support Global Witness. Thank you once again, and I'll